Hey, what's up everybody? 3D Theory here. Today we have a really fun and cool project slated for you guys. AlgoLaser, who is the sponsor of this video, sent us this cool set right here, which is a DIY kit MK2 10-watt laser engraver that comes with an air pump and a honeycomb platform. So we're going to unbox this, do a how-to video of sorts, because this is my first time using a laser engraver and it's super easy to use, and then we're going to review it. So I just want to thank AlgoLaser for sending us this set, and I can't wait to get started. Let's jump right in. So what really sets this laser apart is that it's super easy to use. So let's go ahead and crack this thing open and see what it's like unboxing it. And I gotta admit, guys, I'm really excited. There's so many cool things you could do with laser engravers. So first off, you're greeted with the quick start guide, the AlgoLaser DIY Kit MK2 Laser Engraver Quick Start Guide. Looks like they give you some accessories back here. You got a brush, and I'm assuming this is for when you laser engrave wood. Some zip ties. This looks like some aluminum cards, which is great. Very happy about that. And looks like some black acrylic. We're just gonna put this stuff aside. And looks like they give you some wood. That is really cool. I really appreciate that they provide some samples for you to work with so you don't have to go and buy a bunch of samples. They give it to you already. That's really cool of them. All right, guys, then we lift this foam, and that looks really nicely packed. And let me show you here, that is a real good packing job. So, looks like they give you some eye protection, as well as a cleaning cloth. Here's your laser, and it looks like the rest of this stuff is to actually build the laser engraver. So I'm going to start pulling some of that stuff out. Here is the laser engraver, and it has a shield that is attached by magnets, which is cool. It's easy to take on and off. Then we have our power cables, and here are the rails to build the frame. And this is the air pump tubing. Here we have a USB-C to USB cable. Then we have this cool bag of tools with the belts. I think this is a replacement lens. These are the legs with a really nice looking red color that has been painted on, and it's made of metal. Here's the other set. Here's the other part of the power cable. This looks to be the gantry, and it feels real solid. And lastly, we have the screen, which looks really nice. There's a power button, a key lock, and an emergency shut-off button. That's about it in the box, so I'll move this out of the way and get started assembling this thing. If you guys want to have a really clean and good video on assembling this laser cutter, I put a link to AlgoLaser's assembly video linked in the description below. For the support feet, we'll need 2 M5 by 30 screws, as well as 2 M5 by 14 screws. We also grabbed the B, C, and D rails to put them together. Notice how I put the C and the D rails with the stickers facing up. Make sure to do this for all the rails, as the holes will line up in this way. Just in case you want to know why these screws are called M5 by 30 and so on, I brought my trusty digital calipers to measure these screws out in millimeters and show you why. Here we have the M5 by 30 screw, and the threaded portion should be close to 5 millimeters, as that is what M5 stands for, and the length minus the screw cap should be about 30 millimeters long. I want these rail bars to be clean, so I'm just going to remove the stickers here. Now I'm just going to grab the M5 by 30 screw and stick it through on the side here. Then I'll just screw it in by hand as much as I can, and then I'll finish it off by tightening it up with the Allen wrench. Now I'll put these screws by hand in the back and tighten them also with the Allen wrench. We can now put the gantry wheels on the railing, and putting it on was super easy. And finally we can screw in the A railing bar to the front along with the remaining 2 legs. Alright guys, now we got this all set up and it looks really amazing. I just want to focus in here for a moment and appreciate the design of this frame. Here on the legs, we have screw holes to hold down the laser if needed, as well as the legs are bent inward so that it is more securely on the table. As you can see, if they weren't bent in, the legs would be right at the edge of the table. So I appreciate the designers for thinking about such a fine detail as this. Just so you guys see here without the air compressor, just the frame itself, the size of the AlgoLaser DIY Kit MK2 10 watt is about 600 millimeters by approximately 600 millimeters including the stepper motor in the measurement. Next, I will install the belts with the teeth facing down. I did this the hard way, but in AlgoLaser's assembly video, they show the easy and smart way of doing it, which involved threading it through from the center of the gantry where the gear is between the two wheels. That's the smart way, but I was so excited I just used tweezers to get it through. Alright, from here, we're just going to grab that washer and that screw, lift this up, pop that in, and I'm just going to screw that in. So, just like 3D printing, we don't want it too tight, but we don't want it too loose either. So I'm just going to pull it ever so slightly and put the screw in. Alright guys, now we're going to go ahead and move on to step 5, which is assembling the limit switch. Screw these in over here, just like that. Now align that hole and do the same. And let's make sure it's nice and tight. There you have it. That's on there nice and solid. Alright guys, now we're going to want to grab that limit switch. Make sure it's more onto the left side as opposed to the right. Then we'll just line that up. Grab these tiny little screws and screw it in. Make sure it's nice and snug, as well as the other one. And make sure that's nice and snug. And now this can come and home as it needs to. I appreciate how AlgoLaser kind of cheers you on. 80% completed. Keep up the good work. We'll be able to see the complete DIY kit MK2 soon. That is super cool. I really appreciate that. Now we're moving on to assemble the laser module. And all we got to do is align these rails to its counterpart over here, just like that. And while I'm holding it up here, I'm just going to go ahead and screw in on the bottom over here, as well as above that, because there are several holes here. And there you have it. Since we do have the air pump, we can go ahead and start working on this air pump here. And here's an important tip. It says, please note the 10-watt laser, which is the one we have here, module is sold without an air pump. And we suggest to utilize it with an air pump for safe and optimal performance. If you do not use an air pump, please remove the air nozzle before using the laser to extend the service of your laser. So that's definitely something to note. So the first thing we're going to want to do is grab this tube that came with it, and we're just going to want to pop it in over here. You could just pop it right in. There you have it, and it's locked into place. And again, if you want to take it out, push down, and you're able to take it out. All right guys, now we are ready to unbox the air pump. Wow, I really like the consistency. You're greeted with the quick start booklet, and this is the model 30L. And as we open this piece of styrofoam, we're greeted with all the accessories. We got the big tube here. It looks like a tiny zip tie and an O-ring, as well as a little gauge about how high or low you want the air to be going, which is also attached to the power cable, which looks like it's directly connected. Very cool. And has some nice loose rubber feet, and it's a pretty hefty unit here. It feels real solid. Just stick in that tube to this connecting point, just like this. Fits like a glove. Very cool. And I'm just gonna go ahead and connect this tube here to this point. All right, it's in there, nice and snug. And all we gotta do is just plug it into a power source. We're going to assemble the control box component now. All right, and first things first, we're just going to attach the Wi-Fi antenna here. Very nice. So there's 2 screw holes here, and we're simply going to bring in the screw from the back and screw it in. All right, that one's nice and snug. Very good. Now we're moving on to assembling the main cables. So the cables come out right next to the control box. So first things first are these 2 wires that we just plug directly into the limit switch here. So they look like capital B's, and we're just gonna pop them in like that. Then the next thing we need to connect is the stepper motor here. So first things first, I'm gonna pop in the cable here, making sure these lines are on the outside. When I say outside, I mean there's a little opening here. All right, it's very simple, very easy. And likewise, we have this limit switch here. It takes a little bit of wiggling to pop them through, but once they're through, they're through. There you have it. All right, and the last things we need to connect is the cable for the laser as well as for the stepper motor. So I'm gonna go ahead and attach the laser cable. We just bend this back like that, slip that through, connect that, and try to close that back up. All right, and we're just gonna pop that in there. Step 11 out of 11. And all we're doing here is tying zip ties for cable management, just to support the cable there. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this off like that. And we're ready to put that honeycomb plate on the bottom. By the way, here's that honeycomb platform. It's 450 by 450 by 25 millimeters. So let's open this up. And so we're just gonna open this and see what we're greeted with. Again, consistency. We have an awesome little card here. Open up that foam there and we got the cool honeycomb platform. So I'm just gonna lift that out of there. And it looks like it also comes with a sheet of metal. Very nice. All right, this really thin sheet of metal, I presume would go on the bottom of the honeycomb. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take off this blue coating it's got on there. Looking sharp. Now we'll take off the other side as well. And we'll just stick that down on the bottom to protect the workbench we have over here. And we just grab that honeycomb platform. All right, now we got that honeycomb under there. Very nice. The honeycomb platform also comes with these tabs so that you can just mount something down so it doesn't move, just like that. And obviously you would want to do it on all four corners, but that's the gist of this. All right, there was just one last thing we needed to do, and that is to plug in the power cables. Plug this into this here, and this end over here. Very nice. Power cable itself, and plug it in, as well as for the pump. And that's ready to go. All right, guys, and we're ready to power this thing on. So we're just gonna click power. And this means that the emergency is still on. We do want it as English, so we're gonna move forward here. I don't want to connect to Wi-Fi, so I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna click finish. And off camera, this homed on its own. Very, very nice. It looks like we are ready to go. We do have some example files here. Pretty cool. Got a little sled in there. A lantern. Looks like a Mercedes logo. A pen holder and other things. But nonetheless, I have some cool projects in mind. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into a software where I can get those projects ready. Alright guys, so I came over to Lightburn and we can do a free trial here. Free trial lasts up to 30 days, so that's cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and download for Windows over here. And Lightburn is our Cura, if you will. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this and we'll continue once it's done. All right, we're just going to click next, create desktop icon and install. That was pretty quick. Let's finish that up. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and start my free trial. So it tells you over here, if you've never run Lightburn, which I haven't, the first thing you need to do is set up a device type in the devices box. All right, so it automatically opened up the devices. I'm going to create one manually. I'm going to scroll down to GRBL. Click next. We're going to use serial USB, so click next. And we're going to call it AlgoLaser DIY kit MK2. And we're just going to do 10 watt. And on product specifications on AlgoLaser.com for DIY kit MK2, we have 400 by 435 millimeters as our working space. So I'll type in 400 by 435 millimeters as our working space and I'll click next. And we're going to leave it on from left, next, and we'll just click finish. Then we'll go ahead and click on it and click OK. All right, so we're ready to go. And we can make sure we're in the correct device just by seeing it here. So we got our build area ready to go. We're just going to go over to laser tools and material test, and we're going to want to run a material test on whatever we're working on. In this case, we've got millimeters per second, but when we look up the speed on AlgoLaser's website, they have 12,000 millimeters per minute, which translates to 200 millimeters per second. So we cannot have 300 millimeters per second here, which I'm just going to put down to 200 millimeters per second. And how you can get the conversion is you could just go to Google and type in 12,000 millimeters / minute and then 2 like TOMM/s for a second. And it'll give you a translation. But nonetheless, we got this ready to go. I'm just going to print it out on wood. And over here, we're going to just click on Edit Material Settings. I don't know why this is set to max power at 20, but let's do 100 because I know that I have my max set to 100 over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and save the G-code. And while we're here, just want to let you know that mode, when you have line, it means it's going to cut it out. Fill, that means it's just going to shade it in. So we want line because I want to cut out some wood and see how that worked. And also I want to do a fill one as well, but we'll do that in a minute. So we'll save this as a G-code. And then from here, I want to do fill. And we're just going to click OK and save that as a G-code. Just keep in mind that if you're using a USB drive like I am, you're going to want to have a USB drive that's set to FAT32 as its format. All right, guys, so I'm going to import the 3D Theory logo here, which you would normally see on my banner. And the aluminum card's working area I'm working with is about 50 by 80. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease the size here until I have 80 as my width over here. But since it's 50, I got to go lower to match the height. And there you have it. And I know that I want the bottom to be about at 40, but there's 40, and then I also want to match it up to 40 over here. This is going to help us align. Okay, so I know that the bottom of my card's at 40 and the left side of my card is at 40 as well. However, the actual size of the card is 54 millimeters by 86 millimeters. So I made this square here, unlock it, and do 86 by 54. And I'll go ahead and lock that. I'll set that to 40 and 40. So it's 40 there and the bottom is at 40. And now I can grab my 3D Theory logo and center that on the card. And I know that that will come out where I want it to be. All right, I think that's looking good. So I can go ahead and just delete the outer square there. Make sure the speed is set to 10 millimeters a second and have this at 90%. Just going to click OK there. And usually we can set whether it's going to be cut out or engraved right here, but we've got an image and that's exactly what we needed for this anyway. So we're ready to save out the G-code, which we can do right over here. I also wanted to do a variation. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the 3D Theory over here and bring in the logo only and get this kind of centered out. All right, that's looking centered to me. I'm going to go ahead and now delete this because I don't need it. And we'll set this at 90%, set this at 10, and that's good to go. We're going to save out the G-code for that. All right, since we're ready to go there, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And I got something fun over here for you guys. Hey, not going to talk too much about it, but that's what we've got so far. But that's something we might be able to do in the near future. But nonetheless, let's give it a try. And again, I want to set this at 40 by 40. So I can grab this here and I can go ahead and delete this. But before I go off and do something on cardboard, I want to do something on my PETG filament. I'm going to go 75 by 150. That's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that, put it on 40 by 40. Very nice. And on this here PETG filament, I'm going to do something a little fun here. For those who know, they know. All right, that's looking good. And I feel comfortable just deleting this little guide I created for myself. And this one, let's just stick to 10 and 90. I haven't tried it out, but let's see how it turns out. There's some things I'm not going to do material tests for, and I'm just going to wing it, like this one. So I'm going to save this out as a G-code, and we're ready to go. All right, guys, so I'm going to load up everything into the USB drive that I have, and I'll see you out in the real world. All right, guys, so I got my Nickelodeon USB drive loaded up with all those G-code files, and I'm going to show you here what we're going to be printing on. So this is that makeshift phone that I have, and I left it on one of the thrones for your phone that I created that you can check out on my Maker World as it was curing with that super glue, and it created that little white spot, but they usually come off by just rubbing it like it's doing now. And this is what we're going to be printing the central perk on. This here is a piece of cardboard that I'm going to print out that 3D Theory PETG logo. And here's the cool part. I got this metal cup that I can take on camping trips and whatnot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my 3D Theory logo, just the 3 and the D, on one of them, and then the other one has the whole banner. And I'm going to see which one I like better, and then I'm going to epoxy weld it onto this cup. It's going to look really cool. But before we do that, I want to show you what you would want to do before you begin. So this wood that came with the AlgoLaser, I'm going to show you what a material test looks like. I already kind of played with it a little bit, but I'll start fresh just for you guys. By the way, so you do not damage your eyes, you must wear the eye gear that they give you. And they actually look pretty cool. So we got our USB, and we're just going to stick it in right here. All right, that's good to go. Got the 3D Theory keychain. Turn this bad boy on. There you go. And we're just going to hit power. That unlocked it, by the way. Now, here's how you're going to know how to line up your engraving. So I'm just going to move this aside and show you what we've got going on over here. So with this honeycomb platform, as well as this side here, this is that 40 I was telling you about. So if you come up here, you can see 43, 42, and so on and so forth. So I know that 4 would be where I wanted it at. But over here is 0, and I want to line this right here up with 0. So what I'm going to do, to the best of my ability, I'm going to bring it on down and line it up by eye. And that's looking pretty good. Let me grab one of these aluminum cards and see if I did my job right. So if that's 0, maybe I can bring it up just a tad, like ever so slightly. And I think we're looking good on that front. By the way, here is the 40 that we're going to be lining up over here. So 10, 20, 30, and 40. So we're just going to do that here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where we're going to want to put our card. And I'll show you all that in a moment. And what I'm doing is I'm lining the edge of the platform here to this edge of the rail and make sure I'm lining it up as straight as I possibly can. Likewise with this side and that side. That's looking pretty straight to me. I think we could start with the tests. So usually what you would want to do when you're first starting out here is you would want to do a test like I'm about to show you. I want to just clear these out of here really quick. And be very careful not to move the honeycomb platform because you just might unintentionally. So I'm just going to set this here ever so gently. I know that 4 is where we want to be at, so I'm going to raise this up to about where I think 4 begins, or thereabout. And this goes all the way across, so I don't need to really worry about lining it up with the 4 there. It's just going to be printed out right there. I say printed out, but engraved. And they give you one of these so you can set the Z height of the laser so that its focal point is correct. And how you do that is you just place that on the surface, loosen up these screws here, and just bring it on over and lay it down like that. And once it's laid down on the edge of this, you can just screw that back and take it out. So that's ready to go. Alright guys, and so this thing just went to sleep for a moment, but before we do anything, let's get our goggles on. I'm just going to go over here to projects. I'm going to click this here and it's going to start loading up the USB at 100%. Cool. And for this one, we're going to look for material test. We can start out with the fill. So I'm going to click that, do processing. I'm going to home it. And then we're going to want to click this here, which kind of frames it, shows you where it's going to engrave. So when we click frame here, you know what? I just remembered that these material tests usually do it somewhere in the center. So I'm going to go to material test, hit processing, home it. Let's do frame, and it's going to be about there. So I'm just going to bring it forward and kind of line it up as I see where it's going to be doing it at. So I'm going to hit frame again. And we're just at the edge there. So I'm going to bring it forward just a little bit more. All right. But you know what? I do want to take these little plastic pieces out of there. But let's do it again. So we're just going to hit home. And this is only for the material test. I couldn't figure out how you can get it to be in the area you want it to engrave in. I just know that those material tests usually come out in the center-ish. So you got to just kind of eyeball it like that. At least from my limited experience. Remember, this is the first time I'm ever laser engraving, and so far it's been pretty straightforward. Alright, so I'm liking that. Now, what we're going to do with these tabs here, we're just going to stick them in to a hole so that it holds it down. I'm just going to put one on each side here, just so it kind of holds it in place. So here's where the cool part comes in. So we got our air pump, and I'm just going to turn it on. And I'm going to go ahead and click start. And so that's doing its laser engraving, the material test, and what this is going to do is it's going to tell us how fast, meaning the speed, as well as how much laser power we want to be using to get our desired results. So if we want to be cutting or if we want to be engraving, we're going to know how much speed and how much power we can use on that specific material, in this case piece of wood, we actually need. So we'll just let this finish out. Just know that smoke does come off of this thing because it is burning the wood and whatever else you're engraving or cutting. But nonetheless, I'll see you when this thing finishes up. Alright guys, so you get the point there. Let me turn off the air. So that took about 20 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm gonna take off my glasses here now. Super important that you wear those when running this machine. Let's take a look at what we got. Before we do that, actually, there is one thing I want to mention. We were lining up the 0 here, but also make sure to line up this 0 with that there. So if we take a look, I am pretty close. That is pretty close. The numbers where it tells you the speed and the power's not showing up. But this would essentially give you your gradation of the types of depth you'll probably be getting and colors, or well rather tones you'd be getting. So there's a lot that didn't show up. That means that you don't want to be working in that range. And I assume that this is a speed of 10 at a power of 100 and so on and so forth. And here you can see that earlier I had tried to do the cut test and it cuts it out real nice. You can push some of these through like this one I just did. You could just pop that right out just like that. And you can cut wood about that thick. This was the wood test. I think I'm going to skip the line test, which cuts things out, because I got a little sample over there. I want to get to the fun stuff now. So first things first, I think I'm going to give that central perk a try on that PETG. I'm going to grab this, and I have the textured side here, so I'm kind of curious how it'll handle the textured side. I'm going to bring it up to 4, like that. And I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So I'm just going to bring it over. By the way, guys, I do want to mention that this is the method to use if you're not using Wi-Fi, because this thing has Wi-Fi capabilities and you could just connect through the computer or even with a cable, but my computer is in a different room, so I won't be connecting. But I guess this is how you would do it if you weren't connected to a computer. And remember, this is still my very first day working with a laser engraver, so all this is just done in one day, from someone who had 0 experience whatsoever to now being able to start laser engraving. I think that's about it. So I'm going to make sure I have this secured so it doesn't move. I really think this honeycomb platform as well as the air compressor is super necessary. So now I'm just going to level it out like that. That's for the focal length. I think that's what it's called, focal length. And we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and call this finished. Let's go to projects, our USB, and we got the central perk. We'll click processing. Let's home the machine, and I'm going to go ahead and frame it. Ooh, that's going over a bit. I wonder why it's doing that. Ah, I see the problem. So there's that gap there. So I just need to move this over to where that is at 0, or maybe even where the nozzle is at, that would be 0. But I'm going to test right now and check it out. But again, this is me just learning, guys, so this is my very first day doing it. And let's give it a try. Yep, it looks like we're on target now. And I want to show you what I'm looking at over here. There's a little blue dot, if you can see it. And that shows me where it's going to engrave. I think that's our best bet right there. So, with that being said, let's give this a try. I'm going to go over to Central Perk, Processing, and make sure to wear the goggles. And for this one, I'm actually going to exit the room because it's going to give off some fumes. Let's get the air on. And I'm going to click Start. Alright guys, as you can see here, this is going already too slow for my liking. It kind of dug in there real deep to the point where you can see past through the yellow, and it was going to keep going and going, so I stopped it. I haven't done any sort of material test on this, but now I'm kind of curious on whether or not I should do it. But I'm going to go ahead and skip the PETG for now, and let's go ahead and run some material tests. Alright guys, instead of doing some more material tests, I just went in and I updated the G code so that we're printing at 160 millimeters per second at 100% power. Before we were at 10 millimeters per second, and that's why that thing was burning right through. So we're going to give that another try. I'm just going to click Start here after I wear my goggles. I want to make sure to turn on the air compressor. Alright guys, I'm going to tell you the truth here. This is looking really cool. I know this is my first day doing this stuff, but I can only imagine how much cooler stuff I can do once I build up the skill for it. If I spend more time on it, I can definitely get past the rough layer there and get to a smoother layer, and that'll look really sweet. But this in and of itself looks so cool. So I think with some more experience, I'll be able to do something a lot cooler and a lot better looking. But for my first time, man, this thing's looking cool. It looks like there's some debris on here, so as I wipe it away, it shows up better. But that's Central Perk. Now, I want to do that piece of cardboard, and lastly, aluminum 3D Theory I'm going to put on there. But before I do that, I got to go back into the computer and adjust the times for everything, because moving at a speed of 10 is just way too slow. Alright guys, if you do a material settings for AlgoLaser Google search, you'll see material settings for laser engraving machine. And as you scroll down, you'll see your laser strength, which is a 10 watt, and you got woods, acrylic, and other. And I'm over here in other, and I kind of got my idea of what I want to do with the PETG by looking at this black ABS. Now, it doesn't tell us the thickness, but it does tell us it can engrave at 100% power at 10,000 millimeters per minute. And like I said in the past, you can just do a Google search here for 10,000 millimeters per minute to millimeter per second, and it'll tell you 166.6. And that's why when I came back in here, I set it at 160 to max power of 100. So that's speed and max power. And that's what gave me that result there. Now we got some aluminum, which is coated in metal. It doesn't tell us the thickness, but it does tell us 100% power at 5,000 millimeters per minute. Back over here, I'm just going to do 5,000 millimeters per minute to millimeters per second. We got 83 millimeters a second. That's kind of slow, isn't it? But we'll give it a try. I'm going to Control Z back, so I have my little template bounding box. I'm going to unlock this. I'm going to put 85 by 54, which is the size of those aluminum business cards. And I'm going to line this up to 40 and bring this up to 40 as well. All right, that's pretty good. Then I'm just going to bring in that 3D Theory logo, and I'm going to put it at 85 millimeters per second. Let's do 83, just like it recommends rather, and 100% power. And I'm just going to line this up as best I could. All right, I like the way that's looking. I'm going to be cutting it kind of short because it's right at the edge, but I'm willing to give it a try. And everything else is good to go, so I'm going to go ahead and save that G-code. But first I want to delete this and then save the G-code. All right, I'm going to Control Z and bring that back. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And let's get the entire thing here. Bring it on down. I wish this was a vector. That's okay, because I don't think vector will get pixelated, but this might. That's looking pretty cool. Let's bring it over. That's looking pretty center. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Make sure this is at max power with 83 speed. And we'll just click OK and save as G-code. Oh, I realized that I didn't set the 3D to 83. So let me do that now. 83 with 100% power. Now we can save as G-code. All right, guys, so now we're back here. Oh, here we go. We have colored paper for engrave, 100% power and 20,000 millimeters per minute, which will give us 333 millimeters per second. That's pretty fast. And I thought that this thing can only go up to 200. We are going to do the 3D Theory PETG here. Know that we need to have that at 204 by 204. Perfect. And I'm just going to grab this and bring it over to where it needs to be. Excellent. Grab that there and pop that into place. Likewise, I'm going to go ahead and delete the line here. We don't need that. Very cool. And like we said before, we're going to be at 333 millimeters per second, which again is too fast for our machine, but we'll give it a try. And I say it's too fast because it says max working speed for the AlgoLaser DIY kit MK2 is at 12,000 millimeters, and that is equivalent to 200 millimeters per second. So I kind of don't want to push it too hard. I'm just going to put 200, and maybe I could just leave the power at 100 and see what we get with it. All right, so this is ready. I'm going to save it out. All right, guys, so I got another blue aluminum card lined up over there, and we're going to do the 3D Theory icon only. It's off center and a little too low, so I'm going to bring it up. And I do want to say that this is kind of like the bed leveling for 3D printing, but the laser engraving version of it. I think that's good to go. There is one thing we do need to do, calibrate the focal point. So we're just going to pop that on there like that. Loosen this up, bring it on down. There you have it. It's as simple as that. I'm going to go ahead and hit home. Frame that up one more time. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on the compressor, throw on my goggles, and we're ready to go. All right, guys, it's done. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the air, but that to me is looking cool. And I could just picture on the other side contact information, but for this specific one, we are gonna wrap it around like that. And honestly, that's looking so cool. Now, I must say that there is a rotary roller that you can buy as an attachment for this that can engrave directly on this cup. But I didn't get that. Instead, I got the air pump and the honeycomb platform, as I felt those are essential. And I can just use epoxy adhesive like we used for the Stealth TV tray and get that on there. But before I do that, I want to print out the one where I have my logo and all that writing, and we'll see which one we like better. All right, I think this thing is ready to be engraved. Again, I'm going to turn on the air, throw on the goggles, and let this thing go to town. And let's take a look at what we're working with here. Honestly, that's looking really sweet too. It's a little close to the top and it's slightly crooked. Let's take a look here. Which one looks cooler? Like that or like that? Guys, I think I'm liking the huge logo a lot better. So we'll go with this one. But before we go off and start epoxy gluing that together, I'm gonna try doing cardboard. And let's see how that turns out. Once again, I'm gonna go ahead and line this up to 4. Which is about there, and then 40 here. So we're gonna loosen that, bring that over, and tighten that up. Good to go. And let's see where it's going to engrave that in. See how off that is. All right, I gotta bring it over to the right a little bit. All right, guys, I'm really excited for this cardboard one. I don't know what to expect, but nonetheless, I'm gonna turn on the air, get my goggles on, and click start. Now let's see how that's looking. Let's get a close-up angle on that. Honestly, it looks really cool, even with that, charred dust. But I'm wondering if it just completely burnt the paper. So we have this here brush. I'm gonna use it to brush it off a little bit. Oh yeah, the paper is gone. So there's one thing we can do to fix this. That is lower the power of the laser. But we're not going to go into intense testing right now. Just kind of curious as to what this thing can do. But that does look sweet. If it didn't burn through, I think it would work. However, we would need to do some testing. But nonetheless, we do have our cool test here, and let's finish this off. All right, guys, let's finish off this project with that epoxy adhesive. All right, and we're just going to give that a mix. And we're going to want to put it on back of that card as quickly as possible. And I'm just going to try to go over the sides there because this thing sets extremely fast. And we're just going to pop that on like that. And I'm going to hold that in place for a little bit. Hey, good morning, everybody. So I couldn't help but want to use this right when I woke up in the morning. And there's a couple of things I want to do. We have such prime real estate on this plywood still, so I really wanted to make use of it. I did see something on here that really piqued my interest, so let me show you what that is. We'll go to projects and examples, and I saw something cool on here. It's like a Christmas little ornament or sled or whatever you want to call it, but I'm really interested in trying that out. I just don't know if I have enough room on here now, but let me grab a ruler, my tape measure rather. It says that it's 265 millimeters. Not sure if I have enough room for that anymore, but I can always give it a try. So it's about that big. Yeah, it's gonna go into the area where there are holes in there. That's okay. And then by 160. So yeah, I feel like we could fit it on here. It's just gonna go into the area where there's holes. But nonetheless, I do really want to give it a try, so I am. I'm gonna click on that 10-watt laser once only, and let's home it, frame where it's gonna be working. I know I have to calibrate the height, so let me grab this guy here, pop that in place, very nice. Now let's home it and frame it again. All right, I think we're ready to go. I really wanted to give this thing another try this morning, especially now that I got the hang of it. Gonna get my goggles on, turn on the air compressor, and we'll just click start. All right, guys, so that finished up. That is looking really, really detailed. Very nice. It came right off. Look at that. Super duper cool. I know there are some parts that have the tests in there, but again, that's okay. We wanted to make sure we ran all those tests in the beginning. But look at this one. This one came out gorgeous. Just cleaning these off really quick. You can even use that as an ornament for your Christmas tree. Let's take these out. So this turns into something really cool. So you just pop this on right here, just like that. And you grab this one and pop this on over here. Wow, that's super cool. It can cut out as well as engrave, as you see here. And that could be a cool little decoration during the holidays. That's really nice. And that's really cool. It comes with the AlgoLaser. It's already loaded up on there. Very nice. All right, guys, so we're just here in Lightburn again. I got inspired by the sled to do something with that black acrylic piece that AlgoLaser had sent with the laser engraver. And so I went ahead and created this Disney, well, rather, I pulled this Disney clip art from online and I created this kind of a stand for it with these two little pins on the bottom. And so it'll just be like a standing Disney castle, and I thought that would be really cool. So with that being said, I'm just gonna go ahead and line this up as best I could. And I want it to be a cutout, and we're gonna be able to cut it out as soon as I do some tracing on it. And it's real easy. So I got this black and white image. We just go to Tools, Trace Image. And as we kind of zoom in here, we can see what we're working with. So this pink line shows what it's going to cut, and we want it to attach. So we're going to increase the threshold here. That's looking pretty good. These are very thin lines over here, so I'm hoping it's going to be able to capture it. And there's one right there, but that's okay. We don't have to include that one. Let's just make sure the quality of the line is good. And basically what this is, threshold, is it's capturing all this extra like rough kind of data on the outside, and we don't need it to. If you go all the way, it'll capture all that, but we don't need that. Kind of want it to be more form-fitting, and I think that's looking pretty good. Let's just call it 220. And I'm happy with that. Let's take a look over here. That's perfect. So once we click OK, we actually have a cutout over here, as you can see in this layer. So we don't need the actual image anymore. We have that cutout. We're going to go over to AlgoLaser's website and see what black acrylic settings we need to put. And we're going to look for our wattage. Our wattage is 10 watt, and we have a black acrylic. And my acrylic is 2.8 millimeters thick. So we don't have 2.8 here, which is close to 3. We have 3.5. So 3.5 is going to require 100% power, 100 millimeters per second with one pass. So that should definitely be enough. What is 100 millimeters per minute in millimeters per second? That's 1.6 millimeters per second. So I'm going to give that a try. So I'm going to go here and double click on it. We have 100% power right here at 1.67 millimeters per second and one pass. So we'll click OK, and that's ready to go. I'm just going to go ahead and save out the G code. All right, guys, we got that ready to go. I'll see you out in the real world. All right, guys, I'm really excited for this. This is going to be officially our last thing we're going to laser cut or laser engrave. This one actually we're laser cutting. Turn on the laser engraver, or unlock it rather. I'm going to switch on the fan here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the air compressor here. Alright guys, without a doubt, cutting acrylic is probably the stinkiest of them all. But nonetheless, this looks really cool. I even put a tower fan over here. Got that door open. Got this fan on, this door open. I got my P95, that's why my voice is muffled. But let's take a look. Very cool. How'd this come out? Perfect. Now, I want to make sure I take out these flags carefully because they are attached to a very thin piece of plastic, which already feels kind of loose. Maybe I can use tweezers here. There you go, guys. That even looks cool right there. The flag came off. It was too thin. So maybe I could just take the flags off. That still looks cool there. Let's take these inner portions out. So let me take these out of there. These little holes I made for it. All right, and let's see if we could just peel this off. But I still might be able to glue it on or something. But that is just way too thin. That's totally my lack of experience with laser engraving. But take a look at that. How cool is that? So that there is the Disney Castle. Very cool. All right, guys, so we did the sled which I ended up giving to a family member who said they can put some napkins in it. And I don't know if it was supposed to be a napkin holder, but they're gonna put napkins in it and it's cool. And I know someone who's gonna love this. And we have the stuff we did from yesterday, which I'll pop in the ending of this video here, which I filmed yesterday. All right, guys, so let's take a look at the things we've got today. This is the Central Perk makeshift phone that I laser engraved PETG with. Here's our wood that we did the engraving test as well as the cut test. We have our 3D Theory PETG box engraving, but it seems like it just charred it and burned it. So I think we won't be doing that, even though it's really cool. Here's the highlight. We did 3D Theory aluminum cards, as well as epoxy welded this 3D Theory logo card onto this metal cup. It's looking pretty sweet. I think I could have done a better job of gluing it on, but nonetheless, that does look sweet. And more or less, it's straight on there. Can't wait to have some coffee out of this thing. So, what do I think of the AlgoLaser 10 watt DIY kit MK2? Today is still the same day. It's nighttime out. I started this in the morning. So from morning, having absolutely zero experience laser engraving, to having set it up and having some cool stuff to talk about. And I can tell with each laser engraving, I'm getting better at it. So it's a skill that is worth developing. And is it super easy to use? Having started this in the morning and it being the same day, I would say yes. It was fairly simple to use. There is a little bit of a learning curve. It's a skill at the end of the day. It brought me back to when I first started 3D printing. I really enjoy it. It's really fun. But since I've already gone through my 3D printing journey, I know that this is going to be a similar one where I'm going to have to put in some time to develop the skills to get better and better at it. And also try different types of material. Now this thing can still do so many other types of materials, as you've seen on that list on AlgoLaser's website, on all the materials it can laser engrave. And as mentioned before, figuring out where to engrave correctly so that everything is straight on is part of that skill, and I feel like it's akin to bed leveling. So this tip is touching up top, so it could have dropped just a tad bit and maybe just slightly crooked. So getting better and better at figuring out the correct placement of this is important, and overall it's a real fun time. I had a blast doing it. It's super fun, super easy to build, and if you're already 3D printing, I feel like this is something you could pick up real quick. If you're interested in picking up an AlgoLaser DIY kit MK2 10 watt laser, I have an affiliate link in the description below, and if you buy it through that link, I'll get a little bit of a commission and you'll be helping out the channel as well. But that about wraps it up for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, peace, love, and joy.